if I prorated you the numbers of man hours we've got, which we do get when me and Bernard sit there and do the incentive reports every month, you can see the actual days attributed to the team are just not there. So we do need some more bodies in, unless or until the IT systems get slicker where they can just effectively get through more.
I was going to say, that's your acid test, is when we can remove some of the obstacles from it. So it's kind of, we don't want to overstaff and then everything speeds up and it's like we're twiddling their thumbs.
Well, if you do take them, it needs to be on short fixed term contracts.
It's a difficult balance,
or even do 0-hour contracts.
And just flicking over to the contrary, like I say, this is where you'll see, one of the biggest drivers in here. New business BOA I'm on. You'll see the BBH BOA, which is pretty much the wholesale stuff, not necessarily retail at the moment. It's just really ramping up, and that number will be surpassed again in June. So it's almost now out. So it's personalities, it's CV, it's U-Drive. All of a sudden doing distressed car out of nowhere. They're probably putting on 4 risks today. You won't see this on the daily OGR numbers because obviously all this is hitting 4 directly. So you'll probably only see it whenever you get a 4 update, which is once every 12 years or something. So that I manage these numbers obviously manually, and I think we've done 100 and something grand last week, and we're on to surpass that again this week. Hence why I've had to throw Wes and Christian at it, and it's had an impact on the motor trade numbers, etc., etc. But it's a positive, it's a positive as long as it's a good performing account, more that's key. But like I say, the feedback so far, obviously it's too early to tell. But the feedback is...
but obviously it's one that, as we said earlier, traders will be more inclined to kind of monitor and say, actually, we don't like this, we don't like that, because they're on the hook for it.
And this is the point I'm making. I don't want us to get to support as if it's a £5 million income for our GWP income, and have to build the team accordingly when it just gets cut dead halfway through, which has a tendency to happen with TIC. And obviously the Archbounder, I've just explained where the money's coming in and out. So obviously you can see London Market, they've been writing Arch this year, so that's not necessarily to look at, we're really diversifying with liability, which is one of our strategic goals, and commercial risk, that's because that's where they're based, that's where I'm ring fencing the premium. So, Pete Finch, for example, he's now working on motor trade quotes as well as liability quotes, etc., etc. But on the flip side, it's making the team a lot more viable in terms of income because the numbers are there now. They've done £1 million in new business already this year, which is good. So like I say, I'm currently forecasting that again we get that to sort of cut upwards towards sort of 7.5-8 million, depending on what happens with the pricing throughout the year, which is good. Renewal retentions along with kind of existing business. Now again, this is a bit of a bone of contention for me at the minute, and I've sought various counsel, and Shirley's sort of been trying to assist recently by gauging what exactly is going on, etc., and how much resource, because it's huge. I'll put the numbers in there. 21 people just in looking after a renewal account in Blackburn House, basically, which is kind of unheard of because most brokers, and forgive me if I'm wrong, Tone, you'll be able to correct me on this, brokers and underwriters split most of their staff allocated to new business. But I mean, this is just kind of an illustration of how much resource, because of the processes, etc., that we have to throw out. Even with them 21 people allocated, just discussing with SB and Toby and stuff, like, you'll be surprised at how many little people we can still allocate to the phones, for example, because everything else is taking so long to do the prepping and the documents in the background, etc., etc.
Can't you automate? I know it's just...
No. I mean, all roads lead to Rome, as they say. And
Yeah.
The automation, and with Steve's system, and
because then you should, whatever goes in the first place, then you'll see what was there, and then when you look at the renewal, you can review it and things.
Yeah, and this is it, and it's that yes, we kind of all know the problems, and I've been talking about the problems for a long while. It's just getting the IT support to actually really be slick, and there's always something, the migration onto 4 will be better for TradeX, us and TradeX in the long run, but it's a backward step for the time being, because it's the latency issues, etc., it's
fixed today.
Yeah, well, so that's what we've been told. But it's almost like holding people to task, and it'd just be nice to be able to hold people to task without the excuses for once, because they've always got, which I believe a lot of the time, valid excuses. Not all the time, because there's some performance issues in there that should be manageable, and then we are managing, because not everything is down to computers, etc. There are some people and some staff, as in any aspect of the business, that are probably just doing things they shouldn't be. I was telling Shirley yesterday, sat on the customer service team for a couple of days this week, just to get in amongst it and do some processes, etc., and she's just looking at people going, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? I've not told you to do it. Well, no one's ever told you to do that. It's just silly little things like
colour. People do things automatically. They don't even know why they do it.
I'll give a quick example. One of the young girls in there, and just, with all the best intentions, she's sitting there, spends the first 20 minutes, half hour of a day, colour coordinating all her emails to sort of prioritise her day, what she, them ones are urgent, them ones blah blah blah. But Em's like, well, that's your daily workload. So just do it in time of day order. It doesn't matter, they've all got to get done today. So it doesn't matter if you do one at 9 o'clock or 3 o'clock. They've all got to get done today.
They're not time dependent.
Like, oh right, okay, yeah. And it's just silly little things like that hopefully that young lady's now got an extra half hour a day. Just silly, sort of stuff.
That stuff is actually difficult to train.
Yeah, you just need to be in amongst it, getting, really sitting down and having a look at what people are doing. And sitting on people's shoulders to really bring the coaching element forward. But and that's what I mean. We can't. I'm not going to sit here and say 100% of our problems are IT related and systems, etc. Just 95.
No, it's improvement.
But that is because that 20 minutes she's doing that, she could have been actually getting rid of those.
Another 5 minutes post or whatever it is. Yeah, another 2 phone calls picked up.
Normally you scan down and go, wow, that. I need to do that now, don't I? But
I think at least we're at the stage now where we're noticing that stuff. I think that's the step we've taken, is that we see it now. I suppose the move around has helped that a little bit. They're out and about.
Yeah, no, it has, yeah, and that's the thing, and that was the idea and the intent behind it, is to, really, we've got some experience into utilising them better, and getting the girls in amongst it, etc., and having the time to do that. And I've made a key point of putting in there, all that aside, as much as a drain it is on resource, the renewal tensions are actually still really good in comparison.
Yeah.
I think from your perspective, you always forecast 70%, very fag paper numbers, you say, well, 70%, and then, to stand still 30%. So the whole book is at 78, and the core lines are in the 80s, so it's.
And are we getting a premium uplift, or is it static, the premiums?
Because you get volumes, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, that's done on policy counter retention.
Yeah.
But in terms of volume, it falls in line. So we're not getting an increase. Well, we are getting an increase because if it's 89% retention, we're actually retaining 89% of the premium as well. It give or take a couple of percent either way. It tends to go in line.
I just wondered if it was £1,000 last year, are we getting 1,000 or are we?
Well, I think it's a bit sporadic, and the reason why is because we're still driving, and it's probably a 2-3 year process, because we're still driving towards TradeX are very much now, it's very technical rate, it's very binder orientated, etc., and following in obviously exploits in Jersey, etc. We're not just willy-nilly uplifting premiums where we can. So, for example, if it was £2,000 last year and it's always been £2,000, the technical rate's £1,500. Invariably, it's been invited at £1,500.
Really?
And that's with a premium uplift, and that's on the proviso of, and TradeX are steering that as well, because ultimately it brings in huge TCF implications. When If he's a new business customer and you're offering it to him £1,500, why is your renewal customer getting it for £2,000? You know, that's sort of go. You know, we've all seen the Aviva advert, and there's a guy sitting there with his glasses. You know, that's the whole.
You can say it's because of that area that he's in. You know, you look round there and it's a bit